Then whenever you're ready, man, we could
Yeah.
just relax, be cool.
So thank you, Vidal, for inviting me to your apartment.
Yeah,
It was cool. I really like your setup. A lot of things here, very professional.
thanks. It's like a playground. It's a little
Yeah,
Toys R Us for
yeah, exactly.
musicians and noisemakers.
Yeah, but the real reason, how we talked before is I want to know your opinion about what's for you American dream as a person who was born and raised in this country. Because for me, it's like big opportunity, like if you come to this country, like from being no one, you can get somewhere very high.
Yes. And what you're describing is a term called upward mobility. And it's something that I actually vehemently agree with or believe in. And I'll also start by saying my opinion on what it can take to achieve in America and the potential and the possibilities in America is colored by the fact that I'm a child of Nigerian immigrants. And they came here with
Okay.
very little. Now they're highly educated. My dad's a physician and my mom's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So they had a very firm foundation already when they were coming from Nigeria of it's very important to be educated.
Yeah.
And if you meet a lot of Nigerian immigrants, they'll be like, what do you do? And they'll be like, I'm a software engineer. Why don't you want to become a doctor? They're like Nigerians only want their kids to be doctors or lawyers.
Yeah.
Engineers are okay, but like so if it's software, something they don't really understand, they're like, I don't get it. But
Yeah.
if as long as you're making money. But if you try and do something creative, I'm like, how much money do you make? I was like, oh, okay, that's all right. So as long as you make enough money for like Nigerian parents, like then they're okay with it. But the reason why they all want their kids to be doctors and lawyers, what we were talking about off camera beforehand, is that in order to be successful in America, you have to work hard, and your chances of your hard work being something that translates into financial security go up way more when you're highly educated and highly specialized in your skill. So maybe there's a roundabout way of answering what you're talking about, but to me, the American dream is the ability to maximize your potential in America, right? And that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Like there's a lot of people who they could be really skilled artists, they could be really skilled dentists, they could be really skilled whatever, but because of the circumstances in which they are born, they can't do that.
Yeah.
Like maybe their dad wants them to take over the grocery store, take over the garage, and nothing that those are extremely respectable businesses and essential for the community. But if you feel like that's not where my skills lie and that's not where my talents lie, or worse yet, your government is really corrupt.
Yeah.
And the only way you can really excel is by bribing people to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Then that means that to me that's impeding or entirely eliminating your ability to maximize your potential. So that's all I'll say. I talk too much, but I don't know.
No, that's cool. Yeah. So you think that in this country you really have no boundaries to develop your skills, because that's why you mean that in other countries, because of the high corruption and no one really wants you to become that famous person or the richest person. This is what you mean, right?
Yeah. And I can't speak too intelligently about other countries because I've only visited them. And there's other developed countries where people can pursue things to a certain degree, but there are some. My parents will always complain about, at least my dad more so than my mom, that just he felt like his dad couldn't get where he wanted to be because everything was so corrupt around him.
Yeah.
And that's why even my parents would be like, Americans complain too much. And this is kind of again what we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
where when you come from another country and you see all the things that Americans are constantly complaining about, you're like, why are you mad at this? Like, you have running water, you have the ability to actually study what you want, you can do whatever makes you happy. This idea of doing what makes you happy is absurd to a lot of people, because like, no, you do what you need to do to survive and do what you need to do to provide for your family. So now, granted, a lot of Americans, I think a lot of the activism and people complaining about things it's a combination of things. I think people legitimately find problems with the circumstances around them,
Yeah.
and there are some legitimate foul things that happen to individuals that need addressing. And if you don't address them, the system can continue to abuse them. But I do also think a lot of it comes from just extreme comfort. You know, if your life is super, super comfortable, you can now start asking about like, well, maybe I'm not a guy when I want to be a girl, and I want to be a girl when I'll be like,
Yeah.
you're just like going like, and that's not to say that transism hasn't been around forever, but I think some of that comes from, well, you no longer have to worry about surviving. You no longer have to worry about
Yeah,
certain
that's
kinds of
true.
things.
Yeah, because you know, me as a person who grew up in ex-USSR country,
Yeah.
we never, we never thought about it like, oh, like is I supposed to be a girl or a boy? Like, our goal was, to live from day one to day two,
Right.
and to have a place where to sleep and like to have something to put on the table to eat.
Yeah.
But here, yeah, I feel like you're really, you got the point, because people here are really living very comfortable life.
Yeah. And it varies across the spectrum, right? Like some people live very poor and some people live very rich, but I tend to think that most people live mostly in the middle. And
Yeah.
most people are decently comfortable if you were to ask them to be very honest with you.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, because you came here when you were 22, 23, you said?
Yeah, 22.
Which to me is mind-blowing. I can't even imagine going to another country. Did you speak English before you came here?
Yeah, I used to be a, like international student in different countries of the Europe.
Okay.
I went to Poland. It was like a exchange program student.
Yeah.
And I went to Poland. I studied there for like 9 months.
Right.
After that, I went to Greece.
Uh-huh.
I was for 1 semester over there, like 4.5 months.
Okay.
And after that, when I studied my master degree, I went to Serbia.
Okay.
So all these countries I studied, I graduated, computer science, and it was required to pass all the exams
Yeah.
and all the, courses in English.
Okay.
So
I see.
it was some kind of experience for me, talking only in English. So that's how I developed my language skills.
That's dope.
Yeah. So when I came to the, to the United States, I already had like the,
Base English.
the base.
Okay. So let me ask you, do you feel like you're able to maximize your potential in America, and perhaps more so than you could have back in Moldova?
Yeah, for sure, like 100%. Because here, what I really can feel the difference is people really have money,
Okay.
They can buy stuff, like a lot of stuff, which actually they don't need.
Okay.
There in my country, even like, for example, an average salary
Yeah.
per month is like $200-$300 a month.
Jeez.
Yeah, so here people are making at least, I know if they have a shitty job,
Uh-huh.
it's like $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
way more than what are making people in my country.
Right. Right.
But these are the, the very poor class of the
Right.
people, like, wealthy class of the people, they make 60 and up, like 100K, 150, like, doctors,
Yeah.
like dentists,
Yeah.
they can make 250K. So I feel like in this country, there is the potential of infinite growth. And taking consideration that most of the wealthiest people, for example, like, I know Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all of them, they are living in this country.
Right.
And they, they build their wealth also in this country.
Yeah.
Because of the, taking consideration that in this country are living more than 300 millions of people, it's a huge economy. For example, people paying their taxes, like, the government gets a lot of money.
Right.
And that's how, this country is developing, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And taking in consideration that also in this country are printed, the dollars,
Right.
which are recognized as a worldwide currency. I feel like this is something really heavy.
Yeah. I agree, man. I think that people who are here recognize it, which is why I think there's a very interesting divide in America with where people feel like it's working very well for them and people feel like it's not working well at all for them. And you might have, like, let's say working class whites or working class people in the countryside who felt like Donald Trump felt like he was going to help the country work better for them, and maybe blacks and minorities and people who are impoverished in those communities, because not everyone in those communities and those groups do suffer. And I think that's something that's often and not disambiguated, but they feel like the system isn't working well for them because it is, just inherently prejudiced. And I think like most of these things, if you only look at it from one way, you're only going to be able to think of solutions in one way. Like, if I tell you that the problem is that everything around me is racist, what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't get rid of racism. You can do your best to legislate and make it so that it's illegal, but you're never going to be able to control how the next person is going to treat you.
Yeah.
So to me, it seems like there are sufficient examples where you can demonstrate how people are providing for themselves, given a certain set of baseline amenities and opportunities, whether it's sufficient and solid education and safety in their communities. And the rest is up to everybody else, and collectively you can come together and figure out how to build something better for yourself and your family, or you can sit around and blame the next guy or the guy that's more powerful for you for taking away what it is you want. And to me, it's an easy choice. You only get one life.
Yeah.
You got to make the most of it.
You think that you're grateful for what your parents did for you? Because you was born in this country, they came as immigrants. You think that you went actually back to your country?
I've been to Nigeria 3 times in my life.
And you saw what's going on over there.
Yeah. And it's like...
What do you think about it?
Nigeria is one of those places where if you're wealthy, you'll live a pretty comfortable life. If you're middle class, there'll probably be a lot of inconveniences. And I don't want to pretend to talk very knowledgeably about it because I've only ever visited for a short amount of time. But like, there are little things like when we were in the village where my mom's has a house, the power would just cut out. And I don't know if it's like this now, but there's a time where you just didn't know if you were going to have power for 24 hours a day. So it's just little things. Electricity, yeah. And it's just little things like that where it's like, I don't want to have to, and this is more the rural side where you have to go fetch water if you want to shower, and you have to heat it up and shower. So very little things where it's like, oh, I can just walk 5 steps and turn on a faucet and then water comes out. It's like,
well, actually, now to be honest, you were talking about my life back in my country.
There you go, right? So it's the tiny little things, like even if it is filled with lead, it's like, well, I can go turn on the faucet and get there. So I don't know what it would be like if my parents had stayed and they had lived in a city and raised families, and maybe they earned a good income and life would have been perfectly fine for us. But all I know is what I know. And to me, it just seems hard I have a modest basis of comparison. And America seems really hard to compare to a lot of other places.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah. Like this country, can give you more than any others, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay? So let me ask you this: if we go to war with Moldova, are you fighting for America? Or are you fighting for Moldova?
You
better be careful because your friends at home gonna be like, "Oh, he's a traitor now."
It's actually a very hard question. I don't know. I feel like here I started to build, a different life.
Yeah. I'm just teasing you, man. Just because you like
it's really hard.
Yeah, just because you like living somewhere doesn't mean like you're ready to go to war.
Let's hope that it's not going to be war.
Yeah.
Everything will live in peace.
Yes.
It's like a perfect future. Let's imagine that it's going to be like this.
Yeah, and then we'll wake up and realize that it's not exactly. No, I think America's a great place to be. It's definitely not perfect. But I still maintain, like, there's a reason why, thousands of migrants from Central and South America are
Yeah.
trying to come here. Like they could stop in Mexico, they could stop in Guatemala or any of these other countries, but they choose to try and come to America because they see it as a place where you can, if you are willing to work hard.
Yeah.
Like I was getting, my parents had this very old Honda Civic that I took to the shop and just completely neglected for like the last several years. But I finally went to go pick it up yesterday, and the dude that runs that shop, he's a Mexican guy.
Yeah.
And he had on a Saturday, his 11-year-old son there working with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, snap, you're going to take over the business from your dad? He's like, no, I want to play basketball. Like, his dad is
But his dad.
Well, his dad is, first of all, is like 5'6". So I'm like, my G, like, genetics
no.
are not probably going to favor you in that regard. But the point is that, and he was telling me, like, I don't let my kids have their phone. I don't let, if they want to own one, they have to work for it and they have to buy it. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, when you come to this country from somewhere else, you have a very different perspective, and they work Monday through Saturday. They take Sunday off, and they're just like, gonna do it and teach my kids the same thing. So, yeah, man.
So let me ask you another question. We have a couple more minutes.
Sure.
So what's you're against immigrants who are coming to this country, or you're for?
Do you mean all immigrants or Latino immigrants from Central American? From the South?
All. Because most of the Americans, they are a little bit pissed because, immigrants are coming here, taking their jobs. And I know, Native Americans, they are not really happy about it.
Sure. I think that it's important to come here legally, right? Because there are people who are trying to come to this country and who are going through the correct procedures to enter. And if you have this open border policy, people are going to try and abuse it, right? Like the southern border has seen an immense spike in attempted illegal border crossings because Joe Biden had this message, and the Democrats had this message of, come, we're not going to be as hard on you. We want to be humane. We want to be kind. We want to be open and generous. And they're, I think, taking that to be, we can just come, and it's going to be easy to get in. So I have nothing against immigrants, particularly those who want to improve their lives. But to me, the more important thing is, why are you trying to come to America? And the reason is probably because your country is not a great place to be for some of the reasons that we were talking about earlier. And I doubt that most people would want to leave their country if they could live there comfortably and provide for their family. So if you want to come to America, God bless, you got to do it legally, because there are people whose lives are legitimately impacted by the presence and the overabundance of immigrants who come here illegally. But if it seems like those countries need to figure out how to make their lives better for their citizens. And if you want to be honest and like kind of blunt, it's not America's responsibility to make the lives better for foreign nations, because every empire before America has fallen because they stretched themselves too thin.
Yeah.
So if these countries want, America has to have an assertive, I think, border policy and immigration policy that is humane, that is just, that's fair, but makes people know, like, if you try and come here illegally, you're going to be sent back. And then the countries from which these people are coming, it's their responsibility to make the lives better for their citizens.
Yeah, I agree with your opinion. Yeah.
I like immigrants, man. I tend to enjoy foreigners. I tend to enjoy people like you, people like my girlfriend who's Polish, who have an external sense of how the world works. And I hope more people like that can end up in America. And if not, I'll go visit you in your country and I might steal your girl there.
All right, I like it. Yeah, I have nothing against this.
Yeah.
If you will find a cute girl from Moldova, you're very welcome to, build a family with her.
I have multiple families overseas. It's all jokes. If you're watching, if my girlfriend's watching, it's all jokes.
God will judge you, not me.
Thanks for talking, man. It's always good chatting with you. And I'll see you latest at the gym, man.